Once upon a time, Omaima Aree and Bill Nelson are so in love they could just gobble each other up.
Omima caught Bill's eye. She was sultry, exotic, confident.
Bill was the one who was the answer to her prayers.
But a taste for love turns into a thirst for blood.
We uncovered a house of horrors.
There were rumors that it was either mafia-related or it was done by a hooker in Las Vegas.
Certainly the police were scratching their heads over this one.
For this couple, the honeymoon is over. Bill Nelson is excited for another chance at love. His last marriage didn't work out, but now he's finally met his soulmate. His fiancée, Omaima Aree, is delighted to have found the man of her dreams. In November 1991, they decide to skip a big wedding and get hitched right away.
When people fall in love like that, love at first sight, they're wanting to hold on to that sexual high, that lover's high that they have. So they were really quick to run to the altar.
In holy matrimony, Bill, will you repeat after me?
There's nothing traditional about this wedding or this couple.
To be my lawful wedded wife.
To be my lawful wedded wife.
The exotic 23-year-old beauty born in Egypt loves that her new husband is an older Southern gentleman who dotes on her.
He opened doors for her. He was courteous. She thought he was just a true gallant knight.
He's her perfect American man.
By the power vested in me by the great state of Arizona, I now pronounce you husband and wife.
Omaima had only been in America for 5 years. Here's a man who'd lived his entire life here, who was a cowboy, no less. Couldn't get more American than that. He would teach her the ways of this country, the ways of the world. He would be wisdom to her.
You may kiss the bride.
Bill can't keep his eyes or his hands off his gorgeous gal. And Omima is totally swept off her feet. The future is theirs. But just a month later, it's Thanksgiving weekend, and police in Costa Mesa, California, respond to a very disturbing call about something weird in a red Corvette parked in the driveway of Bill and Omaima's neighbor. The neighbor had made the call, and when police arrive, Omima explains the car is Bill's.
When the officer searched the interior of the Corvette, 2 trash bags were on the floorboard. The officer removed one of the trash bags and used a knife to cut it open, revealing bloody meat and internal organs.
This is no routine call.
You have to wonder what was going through everyone's mind at the time.
My very first reaction was, this has got to be some kind of a joke. I can't figure out what kind of a joke this would be, but this is really a joke.
Omima says she has no idea what's going on.
You don't know where they came from?
Body organs and blood? In their car? It's so bizarre, officers can't wrap their heads around what they're looking at.
We had yet to fully discover everything that was going on here.
Is the stuff in the bags animal or human?
The coroner's investigator at the scene was unable to determine whether it was animal or human. It could have been a pig or a cow or something from a slaughterhouse that resembled human entrails.
The remains go immediately to the lab. Police are baffled. What is this stuff? How did it end up in Bill Nelson's car? And where is the new groom?
Right on into Cuba, landed.
Bill Nelson is a proud Texan and former military pilot.
He wore the cowboy boots, the jeans, the big buckle, and the cowboy shirts. Real gentleman, but also a very strong, tough guy.
The kind of guy you'd want as a friend and co-worker.
I would describe Bill as sort of a gentle giant. He was friendly and polite, approachable.
If there's one thing Bill loves to do, it's soar the skies. At that, he's a genius. His expert flying skills land him a great job as a corporate pilot. But as he soars around the country for business, his personal life begins to nosedive.
Bill was married, had several children, and he got into some brushes with the law.
Nothing violent or crazy, but his wife divorces him and takes the kids. So Bill moves on to rebuild his life.
He settled in California, in Orange County, Costa Mesa, to start a new lifestyle.
In 1986, Omaima Aree is transitioning into a new phase in her life, too, moving from her native Cairo, Egypt, to Costa Mesa, California. In Egypt, life was tough for Omaima.
She suffered a terrible childhood. She was abused sexually and physically in many ways.
As a child there, she suffered through ritual female circumcision, a horrifying tradition in Egypt at the time. Then she endured 2 violent rapes, all by the time she was a teen.
To Omima, she'd lost trust in people, specifically men. Who could she really trust if those very closest to her when she was young did not protect her and in fact violated her?
She had to escape. Now she hopes all that is behind her.
She sought the American dream.
As with Bill, it's time for a new life. Because of her exotic good looks and great figure, she finds work as a department store model.
She was determined to escape her childhood, her surroundings, and she was a survivor.
She makes quite a splash in the Costa Mesa bar scene.
Omima was a fun person. She was always out to have a good time. The kind of person that liked to go out on the weekends, get dressed up, go dancing and party.
And she's not lacking for male attention.
A lot of men found Omima attractive. She looked like the kind of person that they could have fun with.
Let's do it, ladies.
But to her, they all seem like boys. Maybe her American dream doesn't include a man. Just when she wonders if it's time to give up on love. In walks Bill Nelson. Omima is not hard to spot. It's an unlikely but instant attraction.
Omima. Bill Nelson.
Omima liked that Bill was a Southern gentleman, strong and masculine.
What do you gotta do tonight?
She entices him with a game of pool.
A friendly game it is. Ladies first.
Bill was attracted to Omima, not only because she was young and beautiful, but because she was rather sultry, exotic, and confident.
The two never believed in love at first sight, until now. In the game of love, it's 8-ball, corner pocket. But just 2 months later, police discover bags of some kind of remains inside the couple's car. Officers start to question Omima. She says Bill's away on business in Florida.
He's in Florida on business.
And she has no idea what the bags of remains could possibly be. They sense she's holding something back. She seems scared and uneasy. Then she finally says what's on her mind. She thinks Bill might have hurt someone.
She mentioned finding 2 passports belonging to women and felt that Bill had possibly done something with those women.
The passports are in the house. She doesn't know who the women are. Could it be their body parts in the bags? Did Bill kill them? And where is he? Detectives immediately turn their attention to tracking Bill down. Within hours, the coroner determines the organs in the car are human. It's a shocking start to a crazy story, but things are about to get even crazier.
The whole experience for me was very surreal. It was almost as if I was watching a horror movie and actually participating in it.
It's Thanksgiving weekend, and Costa Mesa, California police respond to a 911 call in a quiet part of town. Inside newlywed groom Bill Nelson's Corvette, they find trash bags filled with human remains. Police hope Bill's stunned new wife, Omima, can help them understand what's happening.
My partner and I accompanied Omima to the police station, where we sat down in an interview room to ask her some questions.
She tells them Bill's out of town. But police need to make sure no one is hurt inside the couple's home. There's no answer, but the window's open. Because someone might be injured, they can go in without a search warrant. There are some boxes and laundry baskets in the living room. No one seems to be home.
Mr. Nelson!
All the windows were open, and it was very, very chilly. Walking into the bedroom, the bed was made. Cowboy boots were sitting on an Afghan right on the side of his bed.
At first, the place looks perfectly normal, until a glimmer of red catches a detective's eye.
The only evidence of anything wrong is on the inside deadbolt lock. There's a small, what appears to be blood smear.
When the warrant does come through, investigators begin a more thorough
I didn't
search.
see any signs of Bill Nelson. However, I did see boxes.
No one is prepared for what they're about to find.
We uncovered a house of horrors. We began our search in the living room amongst several boxes. Opening one box, we found a trash bag inside, and inside that trash bag were a pair of human legs with feet attached.
This is definitely human.
In another box nearby, same thing, trash bag, but a pair of arms with the hands removed.
I would have never dreamed that I was going to be involved in a case that involved body parts being scattered all over.
Police were probably scratching their heads over this one.
What horror is playing out in this seemingly safe, quiet neighborhood? And there's more.
As we were opening these boxes, seeing unidentified remains, it was impossible for us to know if we were dealing with one person versus multiple people.
Are they dealing with a serial killer?
This was a very, very shocking case for all of us.
The search extends outside.
As the rookie detective, I was assigned to search the dumpster. This was right after Thanksgiving. The dumpster was full of a lot of food debris.
Strangely, there's also a lot of unopened frozen food.
The light bulb suddenly came on, and I realized someone had recently emptied out their freezer.
I gotta check the freezer. You stay here.
Yes, sir.
When the detectives opened the freezer, they found a large ball of aluminum foil.
And inside that foil, a human head.
I just had a hard time connecting with this being real.
It's like a scene out of a horror movie. And it gets worse. The head has been cooked.
The severity of it was probably the one thing that stuck out more than anything.
We were seeing things that are totally out of the ordinary. We were seeing a human body dissected, which was incredible.
It was probably the most horrific crime that ever occurred in Orange County.
I'll bet that moment that the detectives experienced when they first came upon the apartment is not going to go away anytime soon. They can have nightmares, flashbacks. It can be something that could haunt someone for life.
All this in the home of newlyweds. Where is the new groom, Bill Nelson? And what about the passports Omima said she saw? Did Bill murder these women, then run? Who could have expected this ungodly scene? When just months earlier, Bill and Omima are enjoying their second date. The pilot and the hot model are flying high.
When women come from an abusive childhood, they often wish they had something that they'd never experienced. Dependability, stability, a man that's gonna protect them instead of hurt them. That's what she craved.
Excuse me, darling. Can I get another drink for the lady, please?
Of course, I'll be right back.
Thank you, ma'am.
You need another drink?
Yes, ma'am.
Omaima said that once she came to the United States, she was looking for love in all the wrong places. And she thought that Bill was the one who was the answer to her prayers.
Some see the two as an odd match, but Omima feels he's the perfect man for her.
When you were around Omima, she was all about having fun, having a good time, doing something fun. It was all about having fun.
And this pair has lots of fun.
Bill and Omima would often come to the office together, and she would bring food for the staff.
The flyboy is proud to introduce his exotic young girlfriend.
She made us some lunch.
Bill was totally and absolutely in love with Omima.
As men get older, they need a little companionship. It's very, very common for men to get a little softer, a little kinder, a little less testosterone in their 50s and want to sort of settle down a bit and have some nice, warm, kind woman near them.
Thank you.
This is really good. Thanks for bringing it up.
We're working on it.
Really good.
Delicious.
Day after day, their connection grows deeper.
A lot of things.
The couple is inseparable.
Look at that shit.
He's such a gentleman. I don't get the impression that she was used to being treated so nice.
Love seashells.
A treat?
What is this?
After a month of pure bliss, Bill surprises Omima with a ring
Will you marry me?
and a promise to be her southern gentleman forever.
Yes.
They decide to tie the knot as soon as possible. Bill has an adventurous idea.
Bill and Omima decided it would be really fun to have a marriage on the road, so they quickly plan a road trip honeymoon.
When people first fall in love, they literally have blinders on. They are in love's big delusion. They're not making good decisions, but, you know, who wants to medicate it? It feels so good.
Omima is really pleased and happy to be marrying a guy who opens car doors for her.
Yet just a month later, investigators uncover unspeakable horrors in that car and in the couple's home. The newlyweds' interview with police stretches into its third hour. She still seems stunned by what's going on.
She was a nice person. It was kind of shocking to hear what happened. It was unbelievable.
And the search continues in the house.
We ended up finding 2 passports belonging to women in a bedroom dresser drawer.
Who are they? The victims of a crazy mutilation? Detectives follow up on the passport lead, and they dig deeper into Bill's past. After all, they can't rule out that the body parts are his. Turns out the Southern gent had a bit of a wild side. His love of the fast life got him into some trouble.
Bill got mixed up in some illegal things because there was quick and easy money.
In 1985, Texas police arrest him for flying black market goods in and out of the country.
The charges were conspiracy and tax evasion, and he served prison time.
As an investigator, you have to look at all sides of the equation, any possibility. Based on Bill's prior criminal history, we entertained the possibility that an acquaintance had come back from his past to settle a debt.
Was it a cartel hit?
The ritualistic way that the body was destroyed and also preserved shows the work of somebody who has a deep, deep pathology. This is not your run-of-the-mill crime of passion, poor impulse control. Oh my goodness, how did I do that? Let me stash the body now. The murderer knew what they were doing, trying to clean up the scene, trying to get rid of evidence. They definitely understood the consequences of their crime.
Was Bill the victim or the killer? Had he murdered 2 women, then vanished to start a new life? The real truth is almost impossible to swallow. In the home of newlyweds Bill and Omaima Nelson, detectives make a terrible discovery.
The body parts that we found weren't only dismembered, they were mutilated.
All in all, it was very gruesome, and it appeared very unreal.
They also find passports of 2 young women. Are these the victims of a massacre? Detectives try to track the women to see if they're still alive. And they continue to make gruesome discoveries inside the home.
The crime scene investigator lifted up the mattress on the bed. The mattress was totally and completely soaked to the bone with blood.
Clearly, this is where the murder took place.
Some of the potential murder weapons that we collected were knives from the kitchen, scissors, a broken steam iron found in the bedroom closet, and parts of a broken ceramic lamp. It seemed that everywhere we searched, we found more body parts.
And one body part in particular gives a clue to at least one of the victims. Not only is there a head in the freezer, but male genitals wrapped in foil. 7 hours after the search began, the initial autopsy results come back. And investigators learn the body parts do not belong to the women on the passports. There is only one victim, the new groom, Bill Nelson, killed just a month after getting married.
It was in all the papers, it was on the news, and just to know somebody that was a victim in that way was shocking.
I couldn't believe that a human being would do that to another. Cut up their body into little pieces and put them in a plastic bag. I mean, it just was beyond belief.
Finding the passport holders becomes a top priority.
I was assigned to tracking down these 2 women and verifying whether or not they were okay, and found that they were alive and well.
The women have solid alibis for the time of the murder. Neither knows Omima or Bill. Their passports had been stolen in New York City. How they ended up in the Nelson home remains a mystery to this day. And for now, so does Bill Nelson's death.
Of all the crimes that I covered, this one probably ranks up there as one of the grisliest and the most sensational.
As the news spreads that first day, rumors immediately fly through the small town about who could have done it.
There were rumors that it was either mafia related or it was done by a hooker in Las Vegas.
The massacre shocks the community.
I think people here were so stunned and shocked and unaccepting of what had happened.
It's bad enough to know that you live in a community where a terrible murder has taken place, but to know that you've had the work of a psychopath and ritualistic dismemberment all in your neighborhood?
Whew. I have some horrible news. The body parts found in the car and in the home have been ID'd as Bill's.
Upon hearing the news, Omima seems horrified. She's still afraid to talk. But eventually she tells detectives a strange story she was too scared to share before.
Omima told police that she got a telephone call, a strange call, in which somebody said, okay, you got what you wanted. Why don't you look in those trash bags and go in the kitchen? Do you want some hamburger?
I think I'm gonna be next.
She thinks someone from Bill's criminal past killed him, and the phone call taunting her means one thing: she's next. If Bill was killed over a past debt, it's even more tragic. He'd worked so hard to turn his life around. Just a month earlier, Bill is having the time of his life, delighted to be sharing his world with his hot young girlfriend.
So here was this young, exotic model who was only 23 and paying attention to him. This would be really exciting to an older guy.
The two share a sense of adventure. Their upcoming road trip, wedding, and honeymoon will be a ball. The plan is to head south toward Bill's family in Arkansas and Texas. They'll stop on the way to get hitched. Omima finally has her happily ever after, complete with her Texan knight in shining armor and a Stetson. Mr. and Mrs. Nelson keep going south to enjoy their honeymoon.
Bill was excited to introduce his new, beautiful young wife to his family.
When the newlyweds arrive in Batesville, Arkansas, Omima hits it off with Bill's grandkids.
Thank you.
It's a fun time with family. And as they continue their road trip, Bill will give Omima a 5-star honeymoon.
It pleased Omima greatly when Bill spoiled her with lavish dinners and places to stay and just went first class all the way.
The best hotels, good champagne, and plenty of time for love.
This couple was so in love. 1 month from meeting to marrying. They just wanted to stay together any way they could and in their own perfect little romantic cocoon, and they did that.
Everything seems perfect, though not everyone agrees.
I think that Omima was looking for the easy way out and someone to take care of her.
But is that so wrong? Bill enjoys taking care of Omima.
Each of these two gave something to each other. Omima gave him youth, vitality, excitement, sexuality, and he gave her what she never had, an older, wise, stable, moneyed man who would take care of her, protection.
At the station, Omima is still acting evasive. Her interview goes into its 8th hour. Police know the spouse is often to blame in domestic murders, but it seems inconceivable that a 100-pound woman could be responsible for such brutality. Yet whoever did kill the strapping Texan was both brutal and calculating.
At autopsy, the pathologist examined Bill's head. It had been cooked and struck with a hard instrument about 22 times. Both his hands had been cooked. The pathologist believed that since the hands contained fingerprints and the head had obviously dentures, that this was an attempt by the suspect to remove identity from this victim.
The beheading certainly seems to fit a cartel-like revenge scenario.
To have the gumption to cut a body into pieces, to try to destroy fingerprints, to boil his head, that kind of destruction just certainly was phenomenal, then and now.
To lose a loved one is traumatic, but to then find out that your loved one's body has been denigrated, mutilated, I don't know how people can ever get over something like that.
Evidence collection continues into a second day, with officers determined to solve this gruesome puzzle.
A CSI officer performed a luminol test of the bedroom.
Luminol reveals blood that has been wiped clean.
The luminol made that bedroom glow like Las Vegas and showed evidence of blood being spattered from the height of the bed all the way up to the ceiling.
Someone had spent a great deal of time meticulously chopping up Bill Nelson.
The murder and dismemberment of the new groom was an hours-long process of unimaginable horror. And the answers behind the mystery will soon come together.
For you?
After Bill Nelson marries his beautiful Egyptian girlfriend Omima, They take a rollicking road trip honeymoon. Back in their California home, the newlyweds celebrate a quiet Thanksgiving dinner, their first as Mr. and Mrs. Nelson. Is the whirlwind romance true love or high risk?
He met her, they fell madly in love very quickly, and they got married within a month. I mean, if that's not high-risk behavior, I don't know what is.
But then, just 2 days after the romantic holiday, all hell breaks loose. And police find Bill's body parts scattered around their home. Detectives keep trying to piece together the mystery of the dismemberment. After more than 8 hours of interrogation, they're certain Omaima's not telling them everything. But could she really have killed her strapping new husband?
With the profound difference in the stature of Omima and Bill, Omaima was just a little over 5 feet tall and less than 100 pounds. Bill was stocky, husky, 6 feet tall and 230 pounds. It's difficult to believe that this tiny woman could be responsible for this gruesome murder.
But they're about to get some shocking news that will turn the investigation. Detectives talk with the original 911 caller who led police to Bill's Corvette. And boy, does he have a story to tell. He's a neighbor who says Omima came over to his house, frantic. She says her husband raped and beat her mercilessly that day. She starts to disrobe, to show off her injuries.
She stripped down to say that he had abused her and there were markings. But I think her stripping had more meaning than that. I think she knows how to use her body and her sexuality to gain a man's attention, confidence, and she wanted this neighbor on her side for this.
Then Omima reveals a bombshell. She tells him she actually killed Bill to protect herself. Now she wants the neighbor's help, getting rid of body parts. She even has some in the car outside.
Button up your shirt, okay?
The neighbor is totally horrified. He lies to her, saying he'll help.
The young man found an excuse to leave Omima while he went to call the police.
We have a sworn statement from a neighbor who says that Bill was beating you. And you
By
killed
dawn on the second day of questioning, detectives confront the new bride about her admission to the neighbor. So far, she's changed her story multiple times. Now she swears she's ready to tell the truth, finally. She says Bill did assault her.
And the sexual assault had taken about 2 hours. And she was finally able to wiggle one hand free, grabbed a lamp, and had knocked him out.
She explains that she was so traumatized, she got a knife and stabbed him in case he awoke and resumed his attack. She swears it was self-defense.
Omima panicked, and she tried to get rid of the evidence by chopping Bill's body up.
Then, just as she did with her neighbor, Omima strips down to show detectives the injury she says Bill inflicted.
We will have a nurse in here to record your injuries. I understand. Put your clothes back on, please.
When describing her injuries, Omima was very free to stand up during the interview and start taking her top off, which I found very unusual.
Ma'am, please put your clothes back on.
Did she strip to show them the markings, or did she strip to show them something else? This is a woman who knows how to use her body to get the attention of men. So why not try it with the cops?
If she was attacked, police need evidence to prove it.
Based on Omima Nelson's allegations of being raped by Bill, she was transported to a local hospital for a sexual assault examination, and they also treated her lacerations and other physical injuries.
At the crime scene, there is evidence of a lamp being used in some kind of attack. But does that back up her story that Bill raped her? Not to those who knew the Texas gentleman.
I find it impossible that Bill could have done anything close to what Omima was accusing him of.
Whatever the motive, it's now clear that Omima Nelson killed her husband, then chopped him into pieces. But why? Her next confession reveals an even more horrifying truth about the ultimate taboo no one is prepared for. Just 1 month after getting married, Bill Nelson is dismembered in his home on Thanksgiving weekend. His wife Omima claims she killed him in self-defense after he tied her to the bed and raped her. She shows injuries she says she got in the attack. But a sexual assault exam actually reveals no evidence of rape at all. Doctors also determined Omima's wounds could have been caused by Bill defending himself against her. There's no sign she was tied up either, although there is evidence Bill was bound.
There were ligature marks found around both ankles, as if he'd been tied up.
There's also evidence Omima has a temper.
Omima was the kind of person that you wanted to stay on her good side. She could get violent really easy.
And she has a history of bringing violence into the bedroom.
We tracked down a former boyfriend of Omima's who told us that one day Omima wanted to have kinky sex with him, tied him up, and once he was tied to the bed, she pulled a gun out of her purse and tried to rob him.
Give me your money. I'll shoot.
Get off of me!
I'm gonna shoot. Give me your money.
Get off of me!
Give me.
The boyfriend told the police that he had been able to free one of his hands, grab that gun away from her, and escaped unharmed.
This woman is the ultimate predator, and one way for her to act on her instincts as a predator was to offer kinky sex, was to tie them up. This seems to be her pattern.
Had she tried the same thing with her new husband, Bill? Another ex-lover says Omima wanted enough cash to go back to Egypt and start her own business.
It certainly appears that Omima used older men and her sexuality as a tool to get what she wanted. And most of the time, what Omima wanted was money.
Based on the evidence and interviews, we surmised that Omima tied Bill up with the promise of kinky sex.
But it isn't sex she really wants. She wants cash.
Now stop. Give me your money.
What
Give
you
me
got? You got it. What are you doing?
Bill does his best to escape.
The headboard had been broken into 3 pieces, and it was obvious that some type of a struggle had occurred that caused this thing to break.
But she's not about to let him go, and she doesn't want him to call the cops on her. So she snaps.
Omima hit him over the head with a lamp and then a steam iron, both of which broke. Systematically started to butcher him on the bed.
It's almost impossible to fathom. And it gets worse.
Pathologists believe that Bill was still alive at the time he was being dismembered.
The ritualistic way that she dismembered him, the brutal, bloody murder, shows a deep social pathology in Omima. This is clearly a very troubled, sick, and dangerous young woman.
The day after discovering the crime scene, prosecutors charged the former model with murder. But it's far from over. Just when detectives think they've heard it all, Omima makes yet another shocking confession to a psychiatrist after her arrest.
Omima was fascinated with the color of Bill's blood and wanted to make the process ritualistic. After stabbing Bill with scissors and clubbing him with a lamp and an iron, she had stopped and put on red lipstick, a red hat, and red stilettos.
She makes the last of the dismemberment an event. Then, as her final twisted act, she does the unspeakable.
Omima said she actually cooked Bill's ribs and dipped them in barbecue sauce. She admitted tasting the ribs and commenting that they are so sweet, so delicious, and so tender.
Around the same time, Jeffrey Dahmer's homicide case was in the national media. People were correlating that case with now Omima's case, thinking that she, the female Dahmer of Orange County.
It's one of the most strange and bizarre crimes anywhere in the United States.
Why did she cannibalize him?
Who knows what Omaima was thinking? Who knows if she wasn't continuing with weird fantasies and ritualistic behaviors after the murder? Who knows if she wasn't hallucinating and was delusional about what was going on in the room? We just don't know the mind of this young woman.
No one knows why, but she did her best to get away with it.
Omaima did everything she could to hide the identity of the body. This shows that she had the presence of mind to understand she'd done wrong and there were consequences coming to her.
Bill thought he was probably the luckiest man in the world, marrying this perfect, young, beautiful Egyptian model, and then winds up dying for it. During the trial, the defense claimed that Omaima was an abused woman and killed Bill because she could not take it anymore.
But the jury doesn't fall for her story. They convict Omaima Nelson of second-degree murder. Her sentence? 27 years to life.
She later denied tasting his flesh.
It's little comfort to Bill Nelson's friends and family. He had turned his life around, and to have it end like this?
During their wedding, Omaima and Bill had pledged to one another to love and protect each other for life. And Bill was murdered less than 30 days after that pledge.
Even though Bill had some brushes with the law, he was a good guy and did not deserve to die this way. What Omima ultimately did is she took away a father and a grandfather from Bill's family.
The loss of his life is a tragedy for those who loved him.
I'm sure Bill's family was absolutely shocked and floored that a young, sweet girl could do something like this to their father, grandfather. How was this possible?
The murder of a human being at the hands of another is the most egregious crime known to mankind. But how Omaima desecrated his body was just beyond comprehension.